to talk a little bit about my obsession with AI.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because it's changed a lot. So let me just put it to you this way. You know how I always track new shit. Like
Yes.
I pride myself in always being someone to want to play with whatever is kind of halfway working / breaking. If it means that, 5 years from now, I was able to spot something early on and hopefully identify a trend before it really took off. So I would say that GPT, when it came out, the Chat GPT, the first few versions were just fun for me. It was kind of like, I'm having a conversation with AI. Wow, it's actually producing a real result when I'm like typing to it. It can help me rephrase or rewrite a paragraph, or it can summarize some bullet points. Like it was doing a lot of little small meaningless, more or less tasks, but quite well. And then 4.0 came out.
Yeah.
So when 4.0 came out, my consumption of and usage of ChatGPT went from about, let's call it 30 minutes a week to probably about 5 hours a week now.
No kidding.
So I use it a lot.
What are you using it for now?
I'm using it to code. So it can code for me now. So my background here, like I studied computer science, but I dropped out. And part of the reason, I don't know how much I've mentioned this publicly, but part of the reason I dropped out was that I could look and understand code a lot faster than I could write it.
Yeah.
And so, it's still to this day, I can read code just fine. I mean, granted, sometimes there's some syntax I would have to look up or figure out, but like more or less I'm there. The issue was that if I'm thinking through a problem, it would take me, 3 to 4 times as long as anyone else to like figure out the same problem. And I just didn't have the brain for it.
Yeah.
With GPT, I can come in, and as I start to have little hiccups or I want to think through a problem, I can just ask it to figure it out for me. And it writes code that is like 99% like ready to go.
Could you give an example of a problem?
I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a WordPress user, right? That's what your blog's powered on. And you're like, I want to write a new WordPress plugin. And I want it to do this with my audience, segment it like this, do this only when someone is coming from this country, and make it appear like this. And you could change anything you want. You just describe it in a couple of paragraphs and say, go. It literally will print out all the code for you. You copy and paste it and save it as a script, and you're good to go. And it works. It's insane.
So what does that mean for, say, 5 years from now?
Well, a couple things. Practically speaking, right now, my engineering team, I had one of my developers tell me, hey, I had this like what they would call a kind of laborious kind of task of like just something you don't want to code. You're like, God, I got to resort this data in a certain way. And like, this is going to take me 45 minutes. It was done in 5, right? And it's like
using ChatGPT.
Yes. And so like all of those little meaningless coding tasks, they're just gone, right? Like it's done. It's done.
Yeah.
And so I've been using it to create art, and I can tell it to go and write P5.js scripts for me, which is what Artblocks is based on for all the NFTs.
So art meaning you're using code to generate
generative art. Exactly. And so I can describe it visually, and it comes back with something that's amazing.
That's cool.
I'll show you some examples after the podcast.
I'd love to see it.
And it's crazy addicting because you start getting into it and you're like, oh, what if you take it in this direction, in this direction? So you're limited no longer by your skill, but your own internal creativity of your brain.
And your ability to prompt well.
Yes. But you can even help it write. I'll give you an example.
This is about to get super meta.
No, yeah, exactly. You can tell it, I'm having a hard time writing a prompt. How might I be more efficient? And it'll give you 10 ways to rewrite the prompt. It's helping itself. It's so nuts.
Yeah.
And so once you realize that it's so much more than just rewriting a paragraph for you or helping put together an essay, but it can actually create real software for you, dude, it's just, I realize now that what's going to happen is that, Mark Andreessen was very famous venture capitalist, maybe a decade ago, of saying software is eating the world, right? And so it was this idea that we had all of these old systems that were largely, pen and paper based or weren't connected or weren't efficient, and software would come in and be connected, the data would be put in the cloud, and we would have, this new type of in-cloud infrastructure, right? That would power everything and be connected like it never was before. All of that is still continuing to happen, but this next generation is what I believe is AI is going to eat the software. So if software ate the world, AI is going to eat the software, meaning that AI is going to come in and reimagine every single tool that we use. So every single productivity tool that we use, it will be a part of almost every application that we use in really meaningful ways. Like I've seen it sort data and create, so I don't know about you, but when I use Excel, the hardest thing for me to always wrap my head around and figure out were pivot tables. Did you ever get good at pivot tables?
No, I never got good at Excel, period.
Oh my God. Pivot tables were one of those things where it was just like, they're a nightmare. I
use notebooks and then I lose my notebooks and I'm screwed.
So anyway, you don't have to learn it any longer. You just tell it what you want, how you want the data sliced and diced. And it just like, what I don't mean is output from Chat GPT, but I mean, it will be working in Excel or in Google Sheets and just automatically rewrite the tables for you.
That's wild.
And so you're just going to give it a little prompt and that's it. And I'm telling you this is coming a lot faster than I had thought. So 2 years ago, it was very linear to me. I was like, month over month, like, oh yeah, Chat GPT 3 is out now 3.5, and I see a little bit of an upgrade. When 4 hit, oh my God, like
it seems like it's just gone vertical.
It's gone vertical. It's exponential now. And so, dude, the next couple years are going to be insane.